session, this great conference. It's amazing. If someone would have told us that the end would have come so quickly, we wouldn't have believed it. But nonetheless, I will say something about that in my closing remarks. At this point, we are now going to have the awarding of the Phil Rutledge Social Equity Award. And I do want to, well, I'm going, Dr. Rubin, I will, since you're moderating this session, if you would also say who was on your committee, that would be great.
Oh, I'm going to.
Okay, great. So I turn it over to you.
Okay, thank you. And I have to just add my thanks to Jose and Agatha. I am absolutely amazed at what they have done. And poor Jose is the recipient of all of my problems with trying to get stuff up on the computer and so forth. So thank you. And of course, I'm so proud of him being a John Jay graduate. So thank you. And thank you. And thank you, Agatha. It was wonderful working with you. I am going to talk about the Philip J. Rutledge Social Equity Leadership Award. In 2021, the Napa Standing Panel on Social Equity and Governance established the Philip J. Rutledge Social Equity Award in recognition of Phil's visionary leadership and unceasing efforts that were a catalyst for making social equity one of the pillars of public administration. The award is to be given annually at the Social Equity Leadership Conference to a Napa Fellow who has exhibited a commitment to diversity, equity, and inclusion, and has contributed to social change with an emphasis on developing and promoting concrete actions with lasting impact. Napa Fellow Philip J. Rutledge, who passed away in 2007, can't believe it was so long ago, was a professor at the O'Neill School of Public and Environmental Affairs at Indiana University and a professor at Howard University, talking about historically Black colleges and universities. Defining the word pracademic, Phil was also a senior official in the U.S. Department of Labor, the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, the National League of Cities, and the U.S. Conference of Mayors. He was instrumental in establishing NAPA's Standing Panel on Social Equity and Governance. He was also president of ASPA, and his work with NASPA was instrumental in helping to infuse social equity into the curriculum of accredited programs. I think I once asked him if he ever slept. In 2021, the inaugural winner of the Philip J. Rutledge Award was Blue Woolridge, an internationally recognized scholar whose work examines the role of administrators, systems, and policies in promoting the equitable distribution of services. Blue is Professor Emeritus of Virginia Commonwealth University and immediate past chair of NAPA's Social Equity and Governance Panel. He is also co-chair of NASPA's Diversity and Equity Committee. Before Blue introduces our winner this year, Dr. Gail Christopher, I would like to thank the members of the Philip J. Rutledge Committee for all of their work in selecting Dr. Christopher as the 2022 award winner. Believe me, it was not easy in some ways making this selection because of the great nominees, but we all agreed that Gail Christopher is an amazing human being. The members of the committee are Blue Woolridge, Harvey White, Gary Glickman, Jose Irizarry, Aaron Rollins, and Agatha Swift Caraballo. So my thanks to all of you. And now, Blue, it's all yours.
Thank you, Marilyn. Greetings from the Academy Boardroom, just where I was a year ago today. And at least the way I read it, it does say the National Academy of Public Administration, not in reverse, but that's fine. That's great. Well, I'm delighted to be here today, and almost as much as I was last year. When I became the chair of the Standing Panel on Social Equity in 2009, one of the things I got was all of the old minutes and the recordings or the minutes of the social equity panels I've been attending these panels now since number 4, when Cy hosted us in Cleveland, but that means that there were at least 3 before I got on. And one of the things that I was impressed with when I was reading the minutes and the creation of the standing panel in social equity and the conferences, in the involvement of somebody called Dr. Gail Christopher. And so many of the transcriptions were written by her and edited by her. So I've known her deep commitment to social equity and the standing panel, and of course the social equity, a panel on social equity and governance. And I just mentioned to her a few minutes ago that one of the highlights of my involvement in the social equity standing panel was when Dr. Gooden and I hosted it in Richmond. And lo and behold, I was reaching out to Dr. Christopher, who was head of health policy at the Joint Center, an organization that I know and love, and was asking her to set up some panels. And she said, "Oh, I hear you need some money." And she said, "How much?" And I said, "Well, I was looking for 10,000. She said, "Send me an email." You know, and that made the hosting of the number 6 standing social equity leadership conference much easier. But Gail Christopher has a sustained history of fostering social equity, and I must, so that I don't get accused of plagiarism, I must admit that I'm reading from the nominating letter for Gail for this award submitted by our good friend, Dr. Harvey White. She was a founding member of NAPA's Social Equity, Social Equity and Governance panel back in the year 2000, and an active many for many more years. Her service on the Social Equity Conference program, including raising funds to support the panel's activities and being one of its keynote speakers. She was also a participant in 2 international events co-sponsored by the panel. Champion social equity continues to be a priority for Dr. Christopher. It is evident in her work as Executive Director of the National Collaboration for Health Equity, Senior Advisor and Vice President of the W.K. Kellogg Foundation, and Vice President of the Joint Center for Political and Economics Studies Office of Health, Women, and Families in Washington, D.C. She has received numerous others, but no more important, national recognition for her social equity efforts with each of those organizations. Dr. Christopher is a widely recognized award-winning change agent for designing holistic strategies for social change. She was the architect and driving force behind the Kellogg Foundation's National Truth, Racial Hearing, and Transformation Initiative. The Truth, Racial Hearing, and Transformation Initiative adopted the global recognized Truth and Reconciliation Commission model, which evolved from her decade-long W.K. Kellogg Foundation's American Healing, Social Equity, and Racial Advocacy. I've got another half a pages of description of reasons why that Gail is prominently qualified for this award, but Marilyn said I can't speak too long, so I invite Dr. Christopher to come, and also President Terry Gerton. She and I do a lot of these awarding, and to present. Yeah. Oh, okay. Sorry.
We'll get a clean picture.
You do.
There we go.
And then we will have words from.
Right, you'll take a picture.
Okay,
So that we can share it.
thank you.
There you go. Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you very much for everything. Right.
This is so beautiful. I'm so
Yes.
touched. So I'm gonna put it right
Okay,
there.
wherever you want.
And
I'll make sure I've got one. I'll make sure that you get this one. Okay.
Thank you so much. I am so deeply moved, and it feels a bit like a homecoming, you know, as you read that history. And I remember Phil Rutledge. He was simply amazing. I think of him as a mentor in many ways because Phil had a way of being focused on his objectives. And it didn't matter what the circumstances were, what the resistance was. He just moved forward with political savvy, administrative wisdom, and excellence. And those of us who knew and worked with him, he just made things happen, So I am so touched to be receiving this award in his name, and also to be revisiting my original sort of DC family, which was the National Academy of Public Administration. I'll never forget, it was Neil Pierce, who we lost about a year ago, I think, a fellow who nominated me to become a fellow of the Academy. And Neil was just very gracious. I had relocated to Washington, DC from Chicago, and he just recognized something in me and reached out. I initially became involved, some of you may remember, in the Alliance for Redesigning Government. And that I led that work here at the Academy, served on the board, and it's wonderful, to be engaged. The brief time that I have to speak with you, I think I'm just gonna talk a little bit about this moment we're in our country and the importance of truth, racial healing, and transformation. We haven't ever really done the comprehensive national work that the country must do if we're ever going to achieve social equity and racial equity. And the truth, racial healing, and transformation idea is a comprehensive strategy for doing the work at the local level, county, state, and national level of bringing America together. That's almost like blasphemy these days, to talk about together. But if we're going to actualize the potential of this great experience in self-governance, we have to do it as a union of states. We have to do it with a sense of unity, of purpose. And so the ability to have that is not something that we've honed yet as a country. We really haven't unpacked what it takes. What are the skills and capacities that our general population requires if, in fact, we're going to actualize the promise of democracy? And that's really what truth, racial healing, and transformation is about. It has 5 core pillars in the framework. And the first is narrative change. A culture is built on the stories that it tells, but perhaps more importantly, on the stories that it believes. And the truth of the matter is, our society, for many of its formative centuries, believed in a false hierarchy of human value. And so the uprooting of that fallacy and replacing it with a sense of our equal value as human beings, that's the truth work that we have yet to do. So narrative change takes many forms. It's, I believe, the foundation of transformation in this country towards equity. The second pillar, and there are only 5, so don't get nervous. The second pillar is what I call racial healing and relationship building. Finding a way to learn to listen deeply to one another. It's a process of bringing people together for the purposes of building bridges of relationship and trust within communities, within organizations. And it's possible to do this and to come out of it with greater capacity for compassion and for empathy and for value for one another. And then as you do that foundational work, then you take a serious look at the structure of inequity that we've created in this country to maintain the fallacy of a hierarchy of human value. We asked ourselves, how has this been maintained for all these centuries? We came up with 3 primary tools. One is separation, and we all know the myriad forms that takes and its horrible consequences in terms of inequity. The other is a legal system that was designed to maintain racial hierarchy and social hierarchy. And the final pillar is an economic system that thrives on that hierarchy. And so that's the framework for truth, racial healing, and transformation. The good news is, and I don't use this word lightly, it is a movement in this country right now. We have centers on over 70 campuses in this country, college campuses. We have places across the country, jurisdiction, state and local and county, and it continues to grow as a movement. And as you all know, Congresswoman Barbara Lee and Senator Cory Booker have put forth a congressional resolution to create the national momentum and impetus that we need to really make this happen within communities across this country. And I've worked behind the scenes with them on that. And so I'm excited, although we were inspired by the Truth and Reconciliation movement around the world, we know that America's effort has to be different. America's effort has to honestly face 4 centuries and undo and transform structures of inequity. And that's why we don't say reconciliation, we say transformation. And I would leave you with the fundamental understanding that this hierarchy of humanity, it kills us as individuals, and I believe ultimately would destroy us as a society if we don't overcome it. And so now that we have over 250 public health jurisdictions that have declared racism to be a public health crisis, and we know that, for instance, the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation, I was privileged to direct a major commission to transform public health data systems just this year, and they use the TRHT framework in that commission. So I can say that the philanthropic sector, the public sector at multiple levels, the academic sector, we need more involvement from the private sector, but we are taking a multi-sectoral approach to doing the work, rolling up our sleeves and connecting in communities to transform this country. So I feel the presence of Phil Rutledge as an ancestor, as I say thank you for this honor, and I invite you to join with us as we continue this movement to heal America. Thank you.
Thank you.
We need much larger round of applause, Gail.
Yes, we do.
That's all
We
right.
wanted to make sure that Dr. Johnson, or did
Yes.
you want to follow up Q&A
Yes.
or what?
Sure, we have time, and I'm gonna ask, thank you, Terry. I'm gonna request Dr. Rubin lead this session for the Q&A, please.
Thank you, Richard. I thank you for that wonderful presentation. It's really interesting hearing what you had to say. You think to yourself with what we saw last night on the January 6th uprising, if only all of the people could listen to you and hear you. I mean, that would be, what you said was just so important given everything that's going on. Thank you. Do we have questions? Anybody?
I
can't see.
Hi, Dr. Rubin, this is Dr. Johnson.
Hello,
First
Dr. Johnson. This is Dr. Rubin. You can call me Marilyn now. After all.
I want to say first of all, I want to say to the selection committee, congratulations on a job well done. As you sagely mentioned, your task was not an easy one. However, at the end of the day, you selected the best person, and therefore I want to, with a big round of applause and congratulations to Dr. Christopher. I am greatly impressed with your background. I'm greatly impressed with what you've done over the years, and I believe that if Phil Rutledge was here and our other ancestors, they would say well done. They would say well done. Congratulations. Congratulations to you.
Thank you.
Looks like we have a question from Harvey White.
Oh, great. All right. Thank you, Harvey.
Dr. Christopher, you may not know this, but there are many of us on Zoom watching. I don't know how many are there in person, but there's a whole lot of us on Zoom.
Okay, that feels good.
Absolutely.
Dr. Christopher, my apologies. I planned to be there with you when you received this award, but my schedule was changed because of death in a funeral I had to attend, a memorial service. But I know you well, and I know you work with Phil. I know you work with a variety. Could you just, for very briefly, tell us about your career path? Because I know you've gone a lot of things and how you're pulling them together now to do what you're doing. And many people may not know just how diverse your background is.
Okay, at my age, that could take
Just to let people know just kinds of things you've done.
That there are a lot of students. I will do that. And Harvey, thank you so much, Dr. White, for nominating me and for being such a friend and colleague for all of these decades. But I began my work on the south side of Chicago clinically, working with people who were trying to cope with what we now call lifestyle diseases, diabetes and hypertension and all manner of stress-related diseases. And I soon recognized that I needed to figure out a way to, as one gentleman said to me, work smarter, not harder. And so I began to develop programs that would enable people to receive the information they needed, because so much of that is about information, right? And so I developed various group programs, including the Body Owners Workshop, the Family Development Institute, and that got the attention of philanthropy. So it kind of, my career evolved from clinical direct work to designing social programs. And then it became very clear to me that social programs needed public sector support. And that was really the nexus of my introduction to working to change policies and bring more funding to support the kinds of work that needed to be done in community to mitigate the effects of chronic exposures. And that's when I came to Washington, got involved with the Academy, the Alliance for Redesigning Government. It was right at the peak of this anti-government era. And, you know, we thought initially, well, let's prove to people that government is good, that government can work. And we were doing that with the Alliance, with the innovations in government. And I went from there to run the Institute for Government Innovation at Harvard's Kennedy School of Government. That was the flagship program of the Ford Foundation. And I was there for about 4 years, but I really wasn't a Bostonian at heart. And so I came back to Washington, DC, and worked with the Joint Center for Political and Economic Studies. And many of you know that was the first and largest, if not the only, African-American think tank among the think tanks, and ran their Center for Policy and Health Policy and Women and Families. Kellogg was the major funder there. And they saw my work and said, well, why don't you come to Battle Creek? Well, if I wasn't a Bostonian, heaven knows I wasn't a Michigander. but I commuted from Washington, D.C. to Battle Creek, Michigan for over 10 years, running the health policy, the health division there, and leading the racial equity and racial healing work. So that's kind of I retired, if there's such a thing, or as I said in my letter, I exercised my retirement option in 2017 from the Kellogg Foundation to launch my own center here in Maryland to offer training and support. The center is named in the memory of my firstborn child, Intianu, and Intianu means noble spirit. Intianu died when she was less than 3 months of age, and she introduced me to the phenomenon of infant mortality and to the world of health inequities and health disparities. And so I created this center in honor of her memory. And so that's kind of the full circle, but it was health and the understanding of the effects of limited opportunity and the stress and anxiety that's associated with that really guided my work to try and get us first dealing with the consequences and mitigating the effects of these challenges ultimately dealing with the challenges themselves. You know, it's one thing to deal with the consequences of inequity. It's another thing to deal with the causes of inequity. And so that's my work, I guess, as long as I'm able. And I've written several books, and I wouldn't be a proud mother if I didn't finish this by saying that my daughter, Heather McGee, has written one of the nation's best-selling books on this topic. It's called The Sum of Us: What Racism Costs of All of Us and how we can prosper together. And she is really, people say, have you passed the baton? And I jokingly say, she snatched the baton. And she's doing wonderful work to bring this country together from an economic perspective. And so again, thank you for that question and for the opportunity to say more. I'm so impressed to see the historically Black colleges, to hear that voice and that presence in this conference today. And I know Phil Rutledge would be equally as impressed and proud of the work of the leadership of the National Academy. We've come a long way. So, thank you. I don't have, is that the last question?
Are there any other questions?
I'm surprised that Dr. Woodridge doesn't have a question or two.
No question, Richard, but I can't think of a better way to end an outstanding leadership conference or social equity leadership conference than to hear from one of the leaders,
Right.
one of the pioneers in social justice. And I'd like to join the entire 1,400 people who have registered for our conference in expressing our appreciation to Dr. Christopher and her brilliant remarks. And I can say, because I also knew him, he got me involved in the academy. I can say that Phil would be very proud of you.
Thank you all. Thank you so much. I hope to get more involved over the next year.
Yes, we need
Thank
you.
you. Thank
Back
you.
to you, Dr. Johnson.
Thank you. Dr. C, I know we have our closing ceremony at 3:15, right? Or I'm sorry, no, this is it.
This is it.
This is the closing
No.
plenary, so
This is it. So
we might even be able to give you guys back 15 minutes of your time. But we did just want to quickly go through and make some final announcements. First and foremost, thank you. Thank you to all of our speakers, to our sponsors, to our institutional sponsors, our individual donors, all of the conference track co-chairs, the presenters, the attendees. This really was a team effort.
Dr. C,
Yes,
hang on one second. Let me properly thank the
absolutely.
co-chairs and our amazing team. First of all, to everyone, in case you don't know Dr. C and Dr. Irizarry, get to know them. They are amazing. Most of you have interacted with them a number of times. As Dr. Rubin said, you know, she has had to bring a number of issues to Dr. Irizarry, and he's always been helpful. And Dr. C, well, first I promised her that one day I'll learn how to pronounce her last name. I haven't learned it yet, but I will. Just a question of time. But she has kept us on track, and it has been, I could not have asked for two better co-chairs. They were amazing. I would ask that you join me in giving them a big round of applause. They were just so awesome. And then with the assistance of Amanda as well, Amanda Knapp, who was head of our volunteers. We just had, as Dr. Berry named us back in December when we took this on, the Dream Team. And in case you don't know, yes, we did not pick up the conference until really we started planning in January. The University of Kansas was supposed to host, and they could not. So Dr. Berry James came to me on bended knee. Well, no, not really, but you know, she did a request, and I put it before my dean, Dr. Moses, at the University of San Francisco, and Since we hosted in 2016, we had some familiarity, though nothing like this. This was an incredibly massive conference, but we took the challenge on, and I'm so pleased. And again, my co-chairs were just so amazing. And again, with NAPA, Amanda's assistance. I do want to also thank my track co-chairs because they were equally as fabulous. I mean, it's just amazing. And I'm going to just call them off. And if they're here, I would request that they put the electronic hand up, or they can just say here. Again, I'm going to read in just order of the way they're listed on my list. Agatha Swift C, who we know as my co-chair. Felipe Blanco, University of Nebraska, Omaha. Derek Brown, University of San Francisco. G.L.A. Harris, Arizona State University. Vanessa Lopez Lulatin, California State University, Monterey Bay. Elizabeth S. Overman, University of Central Oklahoma. Aaron C. Rollins, University of Louisville. Wallace Swan, Walden University. Whoops, hang on one second, okay. And Jose Luis Azari, Conference Co-Chair, University of Illinois, Springfield. Rajade and Barry James, who had the pleasure of serving as the conference chair last year and did an amazing job. And she's also responsible for having set up a number of our plenary sessions and was just so instrumental. She coined the term for us, the Dream Team. And that's a name that will go on for as long as we're here. Caitlin Bloom, National Academy of Public Administration. Richard Carrera, University of San Francisco. Bach John, King University. Lavenda Naila, who just received full professor at University of Baltimore. Cleese Ryan, University of San Francisco. Marilyn Rubin, Rutgers University. Gary Glickman, Chair, MPA Standing Panel on Social Equity and Governance. And of course, he chairs that panel with Jade Berry James. And I also want to just acknowledge this was such a massive conference, and I want to make sure that we acknowledge the people who are not part of the main conference steering committee, though some of them were, but they were on other teams as well. So we have the University of San Francisco conference team, Robin Perez, Samuel Bethel, John Giff, Wayne Buda, Daniel and Glenn, Tanya Avias. And then on the Napa's Phil Rutledge Social Equity Award Committee, Marilyn Rubin, Jose Azari, Agatha Swift, Aaron Rollins, Gary Glickman, Harvey White, Blue Woodridge. On the Social Equity Leadership Website Committee, myself, Jose Azari, Agatha Swift, Samuel Bethel, John Glink, Wayne Buda, Amanda Knapp, Caitlin Bloom. On the Social Equity Social Media Committee, Rajade and Barry James. And in case you don't know, Dr. Barry James has like 10,000 LinkedIn followers. I think I have like 100. So, so she is just superwoman in that regard. And then Jose Luis Azari was also on that committee. And then finally, our volunteers. I'm sorry, was someone saying something? Okay, our volunteers who were just more than amazing. And again, that was headed by Amanda Knapp, who is a doctoral student at Florida International University. The volunteers, Diana Johnston, Morgan Mensch, Joey Zaffa, Mary Bosey, Stephen Hamill, who of course is a Napa Fellow, and I believe he is the chair of the Development Committee, Tony Spearman Leach, Wayne Bruder, Amanda Knapp, Benjamin Thompson, Diana Ovala. And of course, none of this could have happened without the great support of my dear friend and president of the Napa organization, Terry Gerton. And at this point, I would ask her if she would say just a few words, please. Terry? Is Terry speaking? We can't hear. I'm
Can you hear
sorry.
me?
Now we can, yes.
Okay. Sorry, we had different groups trying to unmute us all at the same time, which wound up.
That's okay.
I can't say enough to you and the whole dream team that you just named, and Agatha and Jose for your support. This has been an amazing conference. I think you'll set a permanent record for participation and the number of sessions. I sat in as many as I could, but I could only be in one place at one time. So I'm looking forward to going back and catching all of the videos of the sessions that I wasn't able to attend. I was hoping very much to be in San Francisco and see you in person for this, but next year we'll all meet in Kansas City. So thank you so much to all who participated, all who helped, all who presented, and all who attended for really the opportunity to raise our conversation around this important topic. And we look forward to working with all of you in the coming year. Thank you.
Thank you, Terry. And also, we have raised, the final numbers haven't come in yet, but I think we've raised about 45,000 in sponsorships and another 3,000 in individual donations. So we're very excited about that. And we will be presenting the Napa organization with the check as well.
Thank you so much for your generosity. I know you have expenses to cover, but
Yeah, well,
we'll join with you in good work. Thank you.
yes, it's been wonderful. So that's all I would that's all I would say. I would invite Dr. Zari and Dr. C if they have any concluding words as well.
I think Marilyn wanted to make a comment.
Oh, Marilyn.
I think this is the most amazing thing. You know what I'm reading right now?
What? Ah, wow.
And I didn't know that was her daughter.
That's amazing.
So Blue, would you please tell Gail that I'm reading the book, not this minute, I was a little busy today, but I'm reading this book and it's really an amazing book. It was just such a coincidence.
Wow.
Thank you. Everybody should read it.
And Marilyn, thank you for leading that wonderful tribute to Nadia.
Thank you. That was one of the hardest things I've done at a conference in my life. Thank you. And thank you for giving us the time to do it.
Absolutely. So, okay. So Agatha, Jose, do you guys want to say anything quickly?
Just my final remarks. Again, thank you. We are working on uploading all of the recordings to a YouTube playlist that'll be on the Maurice Ferré Institute for Civic Leadership. So we will be sending that link to that playlist shortly. We'll also be saving the chats, since Dr. Barry James and so many others dropped so many helpful resources. We'll also be consolidating those resources to share as well. And thank you once again.
And Dr. C, thank you for getting the ASPA chapter of South Florida to contribute in just so many ways. Appreciate it. And here are the sponsors. Thank you. Dr. Zara, do you have any final words?
I have a lot of final words, but I'll try to keep them short.
Yes,
Thank you to everyone. Thank you to everyone who helped make this possible. Thank you to the institutional sponsors and to the individual conference registrants who also donated. Those that were able to donate and support the conference allowed us to, I guess, set a record. We have more than 1,400 conference registrants who were able to benefit from this conference because these sponsors. So thank you for participating in the conference. We have also, I think, set a record for the number of sessions that we had, as well as having a bunch of firsts, such as the first HBCU President's Panel and the bilingual panel, which I am very, very proud of. So thank you.
And Dr. Zari, do we know how the raffles went?
We do not yet. We are not directly involved in the selection.
Oh, gotcha.
So I will find out. We will just verify that they were conference registrants who entered. So please, in the back of the program, the Information Age Publishing and Rutledge both have raffles. You don't have to pay to enter, where you can win. I think IAP has, you could win up to 2 books, and I think Rutledge has 3, if I'm not mistaken. The information is contained in the back of the program.
Okay, thank you. I do want to just finally provide an opportunity to Dr. Barry James and Mr. Glickman, co-chairs of the Standing Napa Panel for Social Equity. If they would like to say a few words, they may say so. Do so at this time, please. No, well, Dr. Barry James is on the move, as always.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Richard, and Jose, and Agatha, and your amazing dream team. On behalf of the NAPA Standing Panel on Social Equity and Governance, I just want to thank you for hosting an unforgettable conference. I mean, you know that you're just awesome and you rock, and let the record reflect that. Thank you very much for all you do to ensure that social equity matters.
Thank you. Oh, that was just awesome. Thank you. Is Mr. Glickman, is he online?
No.
He's not. Okay. All right, folks. It looks like our time together is about it. And to make this official, and I do this at most of my classes, I will undo my bow tie.
Oh my.
Which means that it's a wrap. So congratulations, everyone. We did it. We'll be in contact. Thanks, everyone.